What is up, guys? Jake from OneHive here with the next forecast video, week 7. I cannot believe we're already into week 7, but we have got crazy matchups for this coming weekend that we're going to discuss. And to help me out today, I've got a new guest with me. You guys might know him. You might not if you're not on the Twitch scene, which if you're not, get on there because it's amazing. But a huge Clash streamer on Twitch, Adam/Time to Clash. Welcome to the show, man.
Thank you very much for having me. I love the work that you do on here.
Appreciate it, man. As I said again, I will put a link in the description for his stream, his channel. And again, guys, if you're missing out on these streams on the CWL weekends, I think Adam would agree. It's so much fun. It's so much hype. You get to see the attacks roll in live. You get to know the outcome as it happens instead of waiting for Monday or Tuesday or whenever us lazy YouTubers roll around and put a recap video out. So here we go. Let's jump right into it, Adam. Week 7, first war. Need to know what you think about it. Dark Looters versus Faked Wargasm.
Who would have thought at the start of the season that this war, Dark Looters would have the worst record out of these two clans? I mean, don't get me wrong, Faked Wargasm were good, but you wouldn't have put this down as Faked Wargasm being the 5-1 clan. I mean, how do you even do this? Do you pick based on the record, or do you pick based on how good Dark Looters are?
Yeah, I know what you mean. It's a tough one, and there's several tough ones this week. And I will go first some, but actually, I'm just not going to let you make me go first on this one. So who do you got?
I've got Dark Looters, but it is a real tough one.
No, I agree. I've got Dark Looters as well, and it's close. I think it'll be a tough war. I think it'll be close, but I think anybody that looks at Dark Looters and say, "Oh, they've got 2 losses, they're not at the top of the heap anymore," is making just a tragic mistake. I think that they'll get surprised. Because in my opinion, they're still probably easily in the top 5 across the CWL right now.
Absolutely. And even if they lost a 3rd match, even if they lost a 4th match, they're still going to get to the playoffs. And in those playoffs, who would bet against them?
Yeah, they've been there. They've done that. They know what it's like. So yeah, I agree with you there. I think Dark Looters gets the win in a close war. I don't think it's going to be a blowout by any stretch, but I could see a 2-star victory here. All right, moving on. Guantanamo Bay versus Suomi Cat. And this is another one that I really went back and forth on. I was like, man, this could go either way. But who do you have on that one?
A little bit the same. Really tough one. I mean, Suomi Cat came into this season as a top tier clan. They were, just before the season, they were beating pretty much everyone they faced. They were on fire, and everyone was sort of putting them in that very top tier. Now the season's unfolded. They're doing good. I mean, 4-2 is still very good. They're not quite at that level of your Warwheels and your Swarm people like that. Whereas Guantanamo Bay have been solid, other than one sort of defeat that they'll look back on and regret, they've also been really solid. So again, it's another really tough one. I think that on form, I'm going with Guantanamo Bay on this one, just because the last 2 wars they've done so well, and I just feel if they can ride that morale, they can beat a very good clan in Suomi Cat. But again, I mean, this could be a 1-star, it could be a draw. Who knows how it could end up?
Yeah, and that's what sort of had me struggling on this one, is going back and forth and looking back at last week with just a dominant victory, 115-108 over Buy Forever. I mean, like, wow, Buy Forever's been hot, so that is nothing to look past. However, Suomi Cat, man, I think they're legit. I really do. I think they're legit, and I'm going to go with it. And I know Lady B is going to freak out, and she's going to kill me because I probably will be buying back my Guantanamo Bay stock a little bit higher than when I sold it. But I think Cat's going to get the win here. I think maybe Guantanamo Bay is a little streaky, if that makes sense. Like they get hot, they get cold, but they could prove me wrong, and I wouldn't be surprised if they did. I'm like you, 1-star probably, maybe even a tie victory, but I'm going to go with Suomi Cat. So interesting that we're already differing.
Yeah, absolutely. Looking forward to seeing how that one comes out, especially because Lady B will surely have words.
Yeah, no, she's going to be mad, but she stays mad, so that's okay. I'm used to that. One that I don't think either of us will struggle as much making our picks on, Power COC versus Cold September. Who do you got?
You say this, however, with everything that's happened this last week, it's not certain exactly who will be showing up for Power COC. And so because of that, I have to go with Cold September, because even though they've had their own roster problems, I still think that Cold September are more likely to be able to field a reliable team for this weekend.
Well, and maybe I'm not up to speed on everything that's going on in the background there, but man, I'm sort of surprised there. I think that Cold September obviously have had their struggles pretty much all season, and so I just find it hard to put my money on them. So I'm going with Power COC, but interesting. I would love to see a Cold September upset there in my mind, at least an upset based off of records.
Yeah,
All
absolutely,
go ahead.
absolutely.
No, yeah, were you going to add anything or just agreeing?
No, I was just going to say that, I mean, for all Cold September have struggled, they did have a big win over OneHive 2.0 when everybody had written them off. They thought they were all going to be
Yeah,
dead by the end of the week.
absolutely.
And then last week, even though they lost, they did put up a decent score. They were getting 10v10s. I don't know, they've got some good players in there. Obviously, they've gained some talent from being in the WHF family. You know what I mean? I just think that, I don't know, maybe they are starting to gel a little bit, and maybe people are underestimating them. I don't know.
Yeah, well, listen, don't get me wrong. There's nothing I would love to see more than some of these clans that a lot of people have written off to start making a rally and make the playoffs, and who knows, some kind of crazy Cinderella story, make a run at the title. So, hey, I'm with you. I'm hoping. I'm just not betting. All right, Elite Gaming versus the Lost. Now, this is one that I really, again, went back to and went back and forth, and I thought this could go either way.
I mean, just to change the subject a little bit, when we looked at week one, because there was all those mega matchups with OneHive and Reddit Omega,
Yeah,
Dark Looters and Warwheels, I was a little bit worried that after that, the standard not drop, but the matches might not be quite as exciting, and that just has not happened. Every
no,
week, it's just as exciting, and this is an example of it. Everybody was writing off Elite Gaming. Look at them; they're racking in wins now. The Lost weren't even in the division, and look at them
yeah,
now. It's like, wow. On this one, and Jenny's going to kill me on this one. So are all the guys from Elite Gaming. But I'm going to have to go with Lost because I really like some of the things that they're doing. They had a couple of mistakes in a few of their early wars, but they were mistakes that really sort of it showed that they could do better. They were just errors of management and errors of the way they did things. And I think that now they've got past those, I think that this could be a clan that could still make the playoffs.
no. I cannot argue with you, and not only would I say that they're not. It's not like a standard has gone down. I think a lot of weeks we're getting better matchups that you would never think were going to be as epic in week 7 as they turn out to be. So I totally agree with you with that, and I am going to go with the Lost here. I think you're right. Pretty new to the CWL, which I didn't even know actually. Monster D actually updated me on one of his streams. They already done one makeup war, I believe, against Bada Bing Clan. Correct me if I'm wrong or if you know. They won that war. Then they had to get right thrown into Dark Looters. That was actually their first war in the CWL, and played them tough. They didn't get the win, but they played them tough. Then against Fake Wargasm, another clan that is just super strong and lost by 1 star. Then last week, turn around, get the big win over Spartans Legacy, which we'll touch on them later. Who knows what's happened there? But I think they get the win here. I think it's going to be close. But I think the Lost is trying to put their stamp on the CWL Invite League, and I think they get a win here in week 7.
Yeah, and I'm excited for that match as well. I think that's just another one that people are going to enjoy watching.
Yeah, well, and got a great streamer there in Monster D, so he's going to obviously be bringing that. So one that we'll get to actually see and enjoy. So moving on, PWC versus Mariana Trench.
This is another tough one because obviously, I mean, we spoke about it, I think, a couple of weeks ago. Mariana Trench are good. They haven't lost too many players from last season. They were 8-0 early last
Mhm.
season. They finished in the playoffs. And this season, nothing is going right for them. So the natural choice would be to take PWC, a top tier clan. However, they lost to North Watchers last week, and North Watchers have had their own struggles. They don't look like a unit. They don't look like they're particularly in love with CWL right now, if I'm being completely honest. Yet, when I watched them against War and Glory, when they had that massive match, I know you were there, you saw the end of that one.
Yeah,
They were unbelievably good. Like they were finals good. It's like which PWC is turning up this week?
yeah.
And unfortunately, you're not going to let me do this. But what I'd like to do is, if the real PWC turn up, I want to pick PWC, and if they don't, I want to pick Mariana Trench. So I mean, which you tell me
Only
which
if
way do we
betting
go
worked
with
that
this?
way. Yeah, no, you gotta put your stamp on one because that's too easy of answer.
Right, I'm going to go with Mariana Trench.
Yeah, and I know how you feel about this one, and I agree with you. I'm also going to go with Mariana Trench, even though I think I'm going to kick myself for doing it, because every time I bet on Mariana Trench, I lose. For some reason, it's like you said, which Mariana Trench is going to show up, which PWC is going to show up, and depending on that, you're gonna know your winner. But I have to bet with Mariana Trench on this one. I just like you said, PWC inconsistent. Um, I don't know. It's gonna be interesting to see who comes out on top in that war, though, for sure. All right, let's go a couple more, and then if you've got the list in front of you, let you force me to go first on a few of these. But 6S versus OneHive, which I think is going to be an amazing war. I think it could be on, if it wasn't for the Swarm versus Dark Looters, on a lot of people's list for War of the Week. But who do you got in this one? I think we probably know who both are going to pick, but tell me why.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I will say the 6S have been very good. They dropped the ball in one of the wars and probably are sort of kicking themselves. I mean, they're 4-2, but I think they'll know they could and should have been 5-1.
Yeah.
Um, they're getting better and better. They've added a couple of new players again, and I don't like to go into too much about this, but obviously we're just talking about PwC. There is a possibility that 6S may gain a couple of those players if PwC continue to struggle, which might make 6S even stronger. But that being said, I mean, OneHive are we've spoken about this before. They're efficient. They know what to do. They can win any war, no matter how big. And you just cannot bet against OneHive, no matter who they're against. And I just think that as well. I mean, we've got a couple of new people knocking around our setup as well who seem super active, super keen, really hyped to see what OneHive can do this weekend. We've been good this season, but I know we've got another gear to get to as well. So yeah, I'm hoping this is the another gear that we're waiting for OneHive.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, I'm going to go with OneHive as well, but I think this could be a very tough war. I mean, 6S is good, and they can be really good. It's just a matter of really, I think it's more about what OneHive does, not so much about what 6S does, if that makes sense. And like you said, if some of the new additions we've got and everyone just sort of shows up, I don't see them being able to get the win. But you look back to week 3 and that what I guess you could call it a performance that OneHive had. If we let one of those happen, then 6S is more than capable of jumping on us and getting the win. So hopefully OneHive shows up and we just sort of take care of business and move on. I think that's what both of us expect. All right, the next one, Emphatic Elite versus Midwinters. Tell me what you think about this war.
Again, it's always like stories within the matches here. Midwinters were struggling, and then they got a little bit stronger. And then just as they start to get stronger, they get the Pigeonism guys coming on over to them, which obviously includes Eclipse, Big Streamer, lots more hype. And it feels good when you're struggling and all of a sudden you get that new blood in there, that new energy, especially talented new blood as well. And that all of a sudden makes Midwinters a lot stronger. Emphatic Elite won their first 3, lost their previous 3, albeit against pretty tough clans in all those matches. And even when they're winning, they haven't really dominated yet. I'm going for Midwinters, and I know how much abuse I'm going to get from Emphatic Elite about this, but Emphatic Elite need to show me they can get 113 or 114 stars before I can keep putting them down for wins. They need to be hitting those scores, and even when they were winning, they weren't hitting them scores. And because of that, I just Winter Birds, I think they're now called, but I've got to go with Winter Birds.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. I think Emphatic Elite, it's just sort of a strange deal. It's like, yeah, they were 3-0 and now 3-3, and it's like, what's happening really? Is there any change, or is that just sort of where they were at? I and I hate to do this. People always complain, but I put them in that mid tier. I put them in that middle of the pack, and I think Midwinters right now has taken a step up, a step past that middle of the pack. And I think they're going to prove it this week against Emphatic Elite. I think you're right. I think they get the win. I think they've got a lot of, as you said, new talent coming in, a lot of excitement. You know what it's like. It's not even just that they're getting some people. Okay, maybe they're going to throw a few 3-stars on the board, but it fires up all the people that were already in the clan that want to put those extra hours in. And I think you're going to see that sort of a surge performance in week 7 here from them. We'll see, but that's my guess. And I'm going with you on that one.
All right,
All
I'm
right,
going to turn this around now and let you
yeah,
pick first.
do it to me. Do it to me. Let's go.
So this is a really interesting one. Annihilate versus Kancha. Both clans lost last week. What do you think of going forward this week?
I thought Kancha was going to win last week. I picked Kancha last week, and though I didn't do the picks video. Sorry, guys. But I did think they were going to win, and they got beat pretty badly by Reddit Omega, who had some struggles in previous weeks. So I'm sort of like, I thought Kancha was coming into that spotlight, coming into their own, and really starting to put some wins together. And then they get beat like by 6 stars. It just sort of shocked me. So I think against some clans, I would pick them for the loss here, but against Annihilate, I gotta go. I gotta go with Kanch. I think what is Annihilate's record? I don't even have it right in front of me, but I know they've lost their share this season. So I'm going with Kancha, but I wouldn't be surprised because obviously the Kancha that I was expecting did not show up last week. Let's see if they show up in week 7.
Yeah, all very good points, but I will add this: Annihilator 1 and 5. I mean, that's not looking good. But last
Yeah.
week they had that War Against War and Glory. They had three 10v10 triples, 10 from 10 on dips. They were flawless. Now, okay, they didn't get the win, but goddamn, they would have beat nearly everybody in the league that week with that
Yeah.
performance. It was just unfortunate they were against a very strong War and Glory side. And it's another one where, Kansha did. I mean, they got battered by Reddit Omega, but
Hmm.
they beat WHF, they beat PWC. It's like, how do
Yeah.
you how do you make the predictions on these? So strictly going off last week, I'm going to go for Annihilate on this one.
Oh, nice. Another one where we differ. So we'll see there. I would honestly, I'd be surprised. I'd be surprised if Annihilate wins, but I mean, yeah, who knows? It could happen. It could happen. This we've seen crazier stuff in the CWL this season for sure.
Yeah, and hopefully we're going to keep seeing that crazy stuff because it is awesome to see. Speaking of crazy, this is a little bit of a crazy one as well. You've got the machine that is Warwheels 6-0 going up against a very revitalized Killer Bunnies side. I mean, they struggled those first couple of matches, but have just got better and better and better. Obviously, Warwheels, we saw a couple of cracks in their armor. Is this a Killer Bunnies win? Is it possible?
Well, you set me up perfect for this, and we did not go, whether people believe it or not, did not go over these picks at all prior to it. But I'm going to say this is the week. I said it at the start. I don't think anyone's going undefeated, and I think this is the week Warwell slips up. Just my feeling. It's not obviously based on stats because they still do look really strong. They're undefeated. I mean, they're super strong. They're at the top of the heap. But like you said, that crack in the armor, that oh, they are beatable. It was just like I think that's out there, and Killer Bunnies is looking good. I'm gonna pick the upset here. I'm going with Killer Bunnies.
Wow. I I don't blame you. I think that Killer Bunnies are very good, but I don't know. I can't bet against Warwheels. I find it. I don't know who I could bet against Warwheels with at the minute. Looking at all the very strong clans, I think it would be a good war, and I do. I think that Warwheels will be another one because they're almost the clan to beat at the minute in terms of
Yeah.
reputation. However, I think that they will be strong. I think that they'll do what they need to this week. So I'm going to go with Warwheels.
Don't get me wrong. I'm not gonna be like surprised if Wales wins. Obviously, I feel like everyone has that week where they just don't show up. You know what I mean? They just don't show up. And if we've seen it over and over, if you do that in the CWL, you can get beat and get beat easily. And I think this might be that week if they're not pumped up, if they're looking past Killer Bunnies. Because with Killer Bunny, I mean, yeah, they did struggle. And you look at their last few weeks, who have they beaten? They beat Cold September. They beat 2.0. They beat North Remembers. Not really the who's who of the CWL Invite League. But I'm taking a chance. It's an underdog bet. Obviously, I'm going with the long shot. But come on, Killer Bunnies, don't let me down.
And they have got one of the best clan names in the league as well. You can't go against that.
True that.
Next up, then, and this is again interesting for completely different reasons. You've got North Remembers 0-6. Last week were sub 100. This week we're only just over 100. But equally, they're going up against a clan who has had their own share of troubles. I mean, these guys were last season's finalists in the conference. Everybody was predicting top 4, top 5 this season for Spartans Legacy. That hasn't happened. They're struggling. They're 3-3 now, which, I mean, it's still a good position to get to the playoffs, but it's not what you would have expected. Where would you go with this one?
Yeah, I mean, you laid it out pretty well, and I honestly, and I don't mean this as a shot at North Remembers, but obviously, they're struggling. There's not many clans I would pick Spartan's Legacy to win against this week. I don't know what's happened to them. I mean, I hear little things, but like, what has happened to Spartan's Legacy? They were so strong. They were at the top of the list for almost everyone that talked about it. There was 3 or 4 clans that came out of their mouth. Spartan's Legacy was one of them, and now all of a sudden they couldn't buy a win. But against North Remembers, I think they get the win here. But who knows? Who knows? Because the Spartan Legacy we've seen the last 3 weeks, they could lose. They could lose. But I'm going with Spartan's Legacy for a bounce back here.
Yeah, I completely agree with you. I mean, a lot of people say that 3 losses is enough to kill a clan. They've had those 3 losses in a row now,
Yeah.
but they're still there. I've not heard of anybody else leaving this week, which is good. Fair play, to their constitution that they are trying to overcome this rather than throwing the towel in. And again, I do think that, I mean, this is a perfect matchup for them because if they can get a solid win here, it might get their season back on track. And again, 3 losses sucks, but playoffs is still a very realistic goal for them. And then obviously once they're there, you know what it's like, anything could happen. So yeah, I'm going with Legacy as well on this one.
Yep. Good stuff.
And next up then, and this is another quite interesting one. You've got Immoral Thieves, 5-1. They've beat Dark Looters for crying out loud, and Spartans Legacy for that matter. They've been
Yeah.
on fire. And then they're coming up against Bada Bing. And if we're talking about inconsistent, this clan has to top that list. They've beat some great clans. They've lost to some not so great clans. I have no idea how to predict Bada Bing. They're a great set of guys. They're a lot of fun. And the great thing about them is they don't care if they win or lose. I mean, they care, but they don't let it affect them. I mean, will Immoral Thieves underestimate these guys like they underestimated Elite Gaming? It's a very tough one. So I'm going to let you pick first again.
Yeah, no, I think you're right, and I think that it is an interesting matchup. Now, on paper, I don't think it's a hard pick. I think you go with Immoral Thieves, but like you said, Immoral Thieves coming off that huge win, really, probably high on themselves right now, and deservedly so. And Bada Bing, it's one of those deals where who's going to show up? The Bada Bing that looks like finalist type Bada Bing, or just the Bada Bing that's there for a good time? So I'm going to go with Immoral Thieves, but if they come in there with a little too much swagger, a little too much drinking and having a good time with the war instead of treating it like it's Dark Looters, don't be surprised if all of a sudden Bada Bing, puts one on them.
Yeah, I can't fault that logic. I'm exactly the same. I mean, I do think Immoral Thieves are the real deal, and I'm kind of glad from their point of view that they took that loss from Elite Gaming, because that probably gave them a slap across the face. I think
Yeah.
last season they might have got away with that. This season you can't, because even the clans that have got losing records, if you take your foot off the gas, they'll convert on you and take that win. But I do think that they're not going to make that same mistake again. So I'm going with Immoral Thieves.
Yep. Another one we agree on. I agree.
So I'll do one more, and then we'll swap back over. So we'll go for Buy Forever versus OneHive 2.0.
Yeah, this is for me not a hard pick. I'm going with Buy Forever. Um, and they've been a little inconsistent themselves. However, 2.0 has just really struggled. I don't know. They did get the win last week, so I don't want to, take the. Or, I'm sorry, they didn't get the win last week. They got the loss last week against Cotcat. Their record is not the worst out there, but it's they. You got to admit they're struggling, and it's like they're just not. Something's not clicking over at 2.0, and I don't know what it is. But right now, until they show me some scores, I think they're going to be in trouble, especially against these mid tier clans like Buy Forever. I think it's probably a decent win for Buy Forever here. 3-4 stars, something like that.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, to be honest with you, Buy Forever, they got off to a flying start last week against Guantanamo Bay. They were 3-0 up on 10v10s, and then they crashed pretty badly.
Yeah.
And I think that sometimes, I mean, we all say you learn more on a loss than a win. I think that Buy Forever will go away after that defeat to Guantanamo Bay and really sort of been working this week. They'll really come out for OneHive 2.0. And I think again, I agree, it could be a 4, even a 5-star win. I think Buy Forever are going to be pretty solid in this one and really show that they were better than their performance last week.
Yeah, they're not happy about that performance. So yeah, I would agree with you there. All right, the next war probably, if anyone's being completely, unbiased and just looking at the matchups, how can it not be your war of the week? The Swarm versus Dark Looter Z, both undefeated. Someone's O has got to go. Who's it going to be at?
Oh man, what a war! I mean, wow. I'm gonna go against the majority. I'm going for Dark Looters. Having watched them against One Hive, watched them against War and Glory, I also saw some of their action in a couple of their other wars. I just think that they're the real deal. I'll be honest with you. I'm more impressed with what they're doing right now than Dark Looters main. And I've actually picked them to go all the way this time. I realize it's a little bit of an outsider pick. I get that, but I see them at 9, 10, 11, 10v11, 11v10. They've got the complete package. They've got the organization, and I'm not taking anything away from Swarm because I think they're incredible. But I feel it. I don't know why. I just think that Dark Looters are going to get the win.
Well, this is one I thought we were going to differ on, but I agree with you. And maybe it's because we haven't faced the Swarm, and I haven't watched. They haven't had as much exposure possibly on Twitch or whatever. At least not to me. But I think Dark Looter Z gets the win here. Obviously, I would not be surprised if it went the other way. I think it'll be a very competitive war. I don't think anyone's going to get rolled over. But I think I'm like you. I think Dark Looter Z is for real. I think they are one of the best clans in the league. I think they're going to shock some people because I think probably more than not would go with the Swarm here. But we'll see. We'll see. I think it's going to be close. I think it's going to be exciting. Obviously, War of the Week. But I'm like you. I think the Swarm gets their first loss.
Either way, it's just going to be a mega match. It really is.
Yeah, probably one of the biggest all season, just because of the fact that they are in week 7 and they are both undefeated. Obviously, you had that week 1 war against Dark Looters and Warwheels. That was huge, but it was week 1. And now these guys, if they win, whoever wins here could legitimately go undefeated, and we didn't think that was going to happen.
I still don't. I still stand by that. That there'll be an upset. I mean, to be fair to Dark Looters, they had their bad week last week. Still got the win, but I mean, they struggled. I mean, one thing that Swarm have been excellent at is executing on clans that they are stronger on, getting 6, 7, and 8 10v10s. I mean, they've really, when they've come up against clans that you would expect them to beat, they've gone out and done it in some style. You've got to give them credit for that. They don't take the foot off the gas at all.
Yep, no doubt about it. I can't wait. All right, a couple more here. War and Glory versus Reddit Omega.
Again, we're talking about mega matchups. This is a mega matchup. It really is. Again, this could be a really close one. You've got Reddit Omega, who've got 2 losses, and I think that they'll be a little bit disappointed with that. I think they would have expected to be 5-1 by now. That would have been their real goal. They are a top-tier clan. They're very good, even if they do slip under the radar a little bit. And equally, they're going against War and Glory, who I cannot believe that they're still 3-3. They've had some great wins, but every clan they come up against seems to have their best week against War and Glory. Even when they win, like last week against Annihilate had their best war of the season. It's like War and Glory have not had it easy. So this is just an awesome matchup. I cannot wait to be involved in this one. I'm picking War and Glory. They're my boys. I know that, and I love those guys. But equally, I mean, I've got so much respect for Reddit Omega. I swear again, if it wasn't for Dark Looters and Swarm, this could be a match that more people are talking about. It's just another really tasty matchup.
No, agreed. And yeah, obviously you guys, if you're interested in this war, Adam will be streaming the last 2 to 3 hours of it, like he always does on the War and Glory Wars. And this is a highlight war for them. This is actually a definitive war for War and Glory, in my opinion. If they don't get the win here, I think they slip down into that mid tier to where it's like, yeah, they might make the playoffs, but that's going to be it for them. If they get the win here against a legitimate clan like Reddit Omega, then all of a sudden you got to look at them and say, okay, they've had their little slip ups, but maybe they're making this mid to late season run and they can be in that conversation. So I'm really interested to see what they do here. Reddit Omega, I mean, I thought they were going to be, I'm not going to lie, after we wore them, I thought these guys are going to rock everybody they face for the most part. And then they had the loss, what was it? Correct me if I'm wrong. Oh, yeah, WHF. And I did not expect that. I mean, maybe that's just WHF finding their footing and starting to string some wins together, but I was a little bit surprised that they lost that war. And because of that, I'm going with War and Glory here. But I think it's going to be super close. I think it's going to be a super competitive
war. And the offshot of this is, if War and Glory lose, they'll have 4 losses, and all of a sudden playoffs is going to be a real challenge for them. Equally, if Reddit Omega lose, they'll have 3 losses, and they're like a top-tier clan. They're sort of expected to be in the playoffs. Even if they don't top the division, they're expected to be there. So there's a hell of a lot riding on this one as well. We're getting to that stage of the season now where it matters now. You can't, if you've had a couple of losses, you can't take another one.
No, I agree 100%. It's a big war for both of them, so that's what makes it even more interesting for me than regular. But we'll see. I got War and Glory on that one too. All right, the last one that we really have anything to talk about is North Watchers versus WHF. And obviously WHF, again, stringing a couple wins together here. So are they sort of making the move? What do you think about this one?
Wow. I've been sort of a quiet cheerleader for North Watchers since the start, and I will be honest, they haven't really repaid my faith in them. I've seen them do good things, but every war, one element of their clan lets them down, whether it be 10v11s, 11v10s, 10v10s. If they could put all those pieces together, they really are a strong clan. Perhaps not Warwheels strong, but certainly, competing for those playoff spots. But they're now 2-4, and obviously a loss here pretty much ends their playoff dreams. However, last week they beat PwC, which is a good win. They were extremely close against Reddit Omega. So they're difficult to predict. WHF, again, they've been really inconsistent as well. They've picked up a couple of wins. I mean, against Reddit Omega particularly, I mean, that's a top-tier win. But then to lose against Kanchu and lose pretty, not great sort of thing, it's like, who do you pick in this one? But I keep saying I think that North Watchers, if they can get it together, have still got an outside shot of playoffs, even though they're in the hardest conference. And so I'm gonna stick with my guns here. I really do think that if North Watchers get it together, they will make the playoffs, and I think it starts here with a win at WHF.
Yeah, I'm going to disagree with you. I think WHF has they've convinced me a little bit. I think they struggled early on, but I think they've sort of found that confidence and that ability to actually perform that they were lacking the first few weeks. And I think North Watchers is as you said. I mean, let's look at last week. I mean, they got the win over PwC, and that was good. Okay, don't get me wrong, I was impressed. But if you look back besides that, what can you point to and say, look here, this would make me think that. So I'm going with WHF. I think it could be close, but I think WHF is probably really trying to, like you talked about, they can't take any more losses. They want to be in the playoffs. They want to be in that run for the title. And if they're going to do that, you can't lose to clans like North Watchers. So I think they understand that. They're putting the work in. I think WHF gets the win here.
I will say this as well. I'm aware that WHF have actually added a couple of people to their roster that have been performing really well in, I think, WHF 2. So again, that could just give them that little bit of an extra boost as well. And that really did factor into my thinking. I do realise I'm probably going against the logic here. Maybe I should be picking WHF, but I don't know. I've got some faith in my North guys. I really have.
It'll be a fun one to watch. And then obviously, Reddit Alchemy versus Tactical Inc. Not even going to happen. Tactical Inc. gets the bye win, so that pretty much rounds us out there. But is there anything you want to add about Tactical Inc. or the Reddit Alchemy dropout? Anything like that?
Well, perfect one for Tactical Inc. because obviously they've just gained some players themselves from chosen elite out of the Premier Division. It gives them that extra week to gel, that extra week to get their sort of procedures back up on top. And who knows what we're going to see from Tactical Inc. in week 8. I think that this bye week is perfect for them. They get time to regroup a little bit. I don't think they can realistically, I mean, they can't make the playoffs really now, but they can still get a couple of good wins and really set themselves up for what they do in Season 3. So probably a good week for this for Tactical Inc. They can have an arranged war against somebody else outside of CWL and obviously get their act together a little bit because we saw, I mean, there was some good things they did against OneHive. That little bit of extra time might be perfect for them.
No, I agree. I think you're right. I think that you could see them beat some clans that maybe they're not quote unquote supposed to beat here in the last little part of the season. I'm like you. How much difference does it actually make? But they could be throw a wrench in someone else's plans for a playoff run.
I've got one
But
quick
yeah, man,
question for you if we've still got time.
go ahead. Yeah.
Which was the hardest match to predict this week?
Oh man, there were some tough ones. Let me give a quick glance here. I'm gonna say for me, it was probably Dark Looter's Faked Orgasm. I think that one was really hard. Oh, that or Clantanimo Bay Suomi Cat. Those two were my toughest. I spent the most time thinking about those.
Yeah, agreed. The one that actually really got me is War and Glory Reddit Omega. I mean, and I've got bias on this one, and I'll admit that, but it was
Yeah.
so tough. And again, there's that one you can't help but shout out Swarm and Dark Looters Z as well. I mean,
Yeah.
so many close matches. It's exciting. It gets me hyped up.
Yeah, it's a tough week for sure for picks. I mean, some weeks I just kind of cruise down through there making my picks, and it's pretty simple. But definitely, multiple times on my list, I just stopped and thought, "Oh man, I don't know. It's gonna be close." But that's just that's good news for all the viewers out there. Obviously, going to be tons of amazing streams, recaps, all of that good stuff in the coming weeks. So that's gonna be fun. But yeah, thank you, Adam, for coming on, man. Really do appreciate it. I had a good time. I hope you did. Hope you'll be back and do some more picks with me in the future, coming weeks. But any shout outs you want to give or anything before we go?
No, thank you for having me. It was awesome. Big shout out to Clash with Coward, who got partnered this week by Twitch as well. So that's an awesome one more partner streamer. He's always good for our community. So yeah, great stuff there.
Nice, good stuff. All right, guys. Until next time, Jake and Adam from OneHive doing our best to help you guys suck less.